The question is, what happens next? Henry Bolton, OBE, joins me now. He's chairman of Britpac and international border control expert. Very good morning to you, Henry.
Morning, David.
So what's your reading of this? Because we were talking earlier, Emma said that this is the parliamentary process working correctly. The Lords tabled 20 amendments. I think the government will be breathing a sigh of relief this morning.
I agree. I mean, the government will be. The country may be sort of just throwing their hands up again, you know, in sort of what on earth is going on here. Yeah, the government will be quite relieved at this because it means that they don't have to actually implement this bill yet. They have done nothing, or virtually nothing, to put in place the organisational structures and the resources to implement it. So I suspect that they knew that this was coming anyway. But the other thing that this reveals, more on the political side, David, and one of the problems that the government has in getting anything through is the division in the Conservative Party between, if you like, the cultural conservatives, the patriotic cultural conservatives, who say, you know, look, we need to protect our society from the influx of people. We don't really know who they are. We're not able to vet them properly, and we're not able to provide the country, let alone these people, with the infrastructure and services they need. So you've got those on the one hand. On the other hand, you've got the sort of the liberal element of the party that is effectively saying, look, you know, we've got to have the default position of assuming that all of these people are benign. We've got to have the default position of assuming that they are refugees and rejecting the idea that they're economic migrants who are abusing the asylum system. So you've got a fairly major split in the Conservative Party, and it's being revealed by this bill. And how Sunak's going to manage it, I think he's just hoping, you know, that the election comes before he has a nervous breakdown, I think.
Well, he has a lot on his plate, I have to say, just in terms of those rebels, as you say. But Theresa May, obviously, very strongly up there. Sir Ian Duncan Smith as well. This is, I mean, obviously, Theresa May, the architect of the modern slavery bill, and so those are her concerns. And I think many people would think they are just. Also about unaccompanied children. But this is a very murky area, isn't it? Because many people are passing off as being younger than they are.
That is part of the problem. And of course, you know, I've worked this issue practically on the ground across the Balkans, in Albania, in various places, in North Africa, in Southern Europe. I've worked this issue practically trying to stop it. I know that these are the vast majority are economic migrants who are saying they are refugees in order to play the asylum system. You're going to have exactly the same problem. That's one of my concerns. You know, Theresa May, I've never met the lady, and I'm sure she has every sort of good intention here, and she's worried about children and their welfare. And I get all that. But what will happen, because people in some of these countries and some of these societies are far more ruthless than we are used to, they will send children on their own over here who may or may not get asylum. If those children get asylum, then they're able to claim family, to bring family members in. It is a way of opening the door. And if we don't have the robust mechanisms and processes and trained staff in place to be able to make decent assessments of that and the sort of risk in that sense of individual cases, then we're just going to make the problem worse.
So just in terms of what happens now, it goes back to the upper chamber. Now, the upper chamber is expected to make renewed attempts to actually amend the legislation once again. And I thought Robert Jenrick was particularly interesting, urging members of Parliament to send a clear message to the Lords to think again. And I think the public will see, once again, the parliamentary process. You have elected politicians in one chamber. You then have people who've been stuck there for whatever reason in the House of Lords, thwarting essentially the will of the people and what the elected politicians want to do.
Indeed, that's what the public's going to see, David. And one of the other things that worries me, a lot of things that concern me about all this, but is that the public are going to continue. It's going to build the call for a change in the House of Lords. And the House of Lords, indeed, does need reform. But the institution, the role of scrutinising what comes out of the House of Commons is a crucial one. What we're seeing is not a flaw in that role, but in the people who are there to do it within the House of Lords. It's how we select people to go there. If we had an election, then we'd have just a repeat of the House of Commons in some respects. What we've got to ensure is a system that puts people in the House of Lords who really know their beans, who know, and they have experience, they have the strategic acumen to be able to interrogate legislation out of the Commons effectively. And sadly, because of the politicisation of it over decades, and I don't just point the finger here at the Conservative Party, because of the politicisation of the House of Lords, and because people who are frankly inadequate for the role are in the House of Lords, we've got a failure. And we've got to be aware of what the problem is there. It's not just that they're a whole bunch of old fuddy-duddies, because many of them aren't. It's about the intellect, the experience and the knowledge that we have in that.
And I think you make a great point there. We're seeing younger and younger people going into the House of Lords who, quite frankly, have no experience of life at all other than doing PPE at Oxford or Cambridge. And therefore, I agree that we need to have a completely different system, but the revising chamber is paramount in that. And I think there are growing calls for the second house to be reformed. Let me just ask you this question, if I may. If it gets to it, do you think they would use the Parliament Act to force this legislation through?
Well, you know, so far, Rishi Sunak has shown absolutely no guts or backbone. He's appeased the European Union. He's appeasing the Liberals in his party as much as he can. He seems to be coming up with wish lists and saying, I'm going to do X, Y and Z, but seemingly to me has no intention of doing many of them that are in his control because he doesn't want to create further tension within the party. I think he simply doesn't have the courage, the determination, the vision to push it through. So I doubt it. But it's a crucial issue. He may do.
Henry, good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. That's Henry Bolton, OB there, Chairman of Britpac and International Border Control Expert.